Hello and welcome to The Drug Trip. This channel is here to feed the curiosity of those who would like to gain an insight to the effects of various drugs and substances through user experiences and stories, with our main goal being to entertain and reduce harm and abuse. We post regular trip reports every few days, so if you do enjoy these, we would really appreciate it if you subscribed. And more importantly, we love to hear our viewers' thoughts, opinions and experiences, so please leave something for us in the comment section and we may use it in a future video. Enjoy and be safe. I have two Datura metal plants which I raised from seed. The first one is older than a year, the second one is around 8 months old. They both flowered throughout our spring and summer. I was quite disappointed to see the flowers blooming and then drop off entirely after a few days. Nothing was pollinating them, so I opted for manual/hand pollination and they all worked perfectly. From the younger tree, I took 3 seed pods, one to my seed bank and the last 2 for consumption. I gave 1 pod to a very good friend because he wanted to grow them as well. And this is where it gets quite interesting. A few hours later, there are people at my gate asking questions. I suggested taking him to hospital for observation in case the drug was still picking up speed. Turns out that my friend gave the pod to a minor who was only around 14 or 15 years old, and he had eaten them and was now tripping very badly. From everything I had heard, this was a textbook trip. Vanishing cigarettes, cell phone, talking Chinese, walking into things, mumbling, etc. The following day, the tripper graced me with their presence, and it gave me the opportunity to ask a lot of questions. It sounded like a scary but fun trip. The pod in question was the smallest and must have had around 12 to 18 seeds. I could hardly believe that so few seeds could have such an effect. He said he ate more than 12 but less than 20, chewed them fine and swallowed. And then around 20 minutes later, he said that the floors were rippling, and soon after that, the trip had gone into full swing. I won't elaborate anymore, but suffice to say, I was impressed. I simply had to try it for myself. I used the last pod for my trip. The pod itself was still green in places, but this is exactly what I wanted: hydrated seeds. I broke open the pod and ended up with around 40 seeds, all fresh and plump, even with the bits of white flesh that sometimes break off with the seed. I'm not sure if the white flesh played a part in this, but rather that the seeds were fresh and not dry. So, on a full stomach, I munched away on 10 seeds at around 8:30 PM, swallowed and waited 20 minutes. At around 9 PM, I was feeling nothing. Around 10 PM, I started feeling just ever so slightly off balance, but more so if I turn around fast and walk. I almost fell over quite a lot. I do smoke a lot of sweet Mary Jane, but I don't ever recall feeling anything like this before. Definitely not the weed. Because it had taken so long to kick in, I nailed another 10 seeds. This turned out to be a bad mistake. I should have rather taken another 3 or 4 seeds. At around 11 PM, I was definitely wobbling, as if I was drunk. I poured myself a glass of fresh, cold water. The taste was horrible, and it made my throat burn. I made some coffee, but this also had a very sour and bitter taste. I reckon I'll just have some beers on hand for the next trip. I'm not sure. Alcohol and Datura coursing through my veins at the same time doesn't sound like a particularly good idea. So anyway, at midnight my trip was in full swing. I was seeing things, hearing things, walking into absolutely everything, bashing my toes at almost every corner, picking up objects that only existed in my mind. It also seemed that my arms were shorter, requiring 2 or 3 attempts to reach an object. Man, this stuff really does work. And from that point on, I time travelled, and until 3:30 AM, I do not remember a single thing. So by the time 3:30 AM rolled around, I must have made a lot of trouble in the house. My son and wife were following me around looking very angry. I had 3 experiments on the go concurrently. One in the bathroom, dissolving a bar of soap, the pill, another in my workshop. I'm not sure what the hell that was, a teleporter, I think, and one in the kitchen, making coffee with, well, whatever I could find. I made a special egg milk which seemed to piss off my wife badly, and I don't blame her. I made a really big mess. I told them I was fine, but they did not budge. I was incapable of holding a conversation because every word was such an effort, and my mouth wasn't working properly either, nor was my brain, because I was tripping, hallucinating, talking to people who weren't even there. The disappearing cigarette is a fact, an absolute fact. How many times I scoured the floor for that cigarette and had vanished from my fingers, I had lost count. I also found it very difficult to pee. My wife and son had a hard time convincing me that it was 3:30 AM and not 3:30 PM. Eventually, they opened a curtain and made me look outside. It was pitch black. I then needed to go outside. I saw twinkling flashes of blue light coming from random points all around me. It was quite amazing, and I knew they were not real. This was the best trip I ever had, but it could have easily have turned ugly. Caution with caution is the key here. This stuff is dangerous. Definitely have a sitter if you're going to be tripping heavy, and by heavy I mean 20 to 30, possibly 40 seeds. My son, who is 18, told me everything just now. He was worried about me, like really worried. He told me that he thought I would never return to a normal person. I got up to all sorts of shit, apparently. Embarrassing, but wow, what a trip. My son actually filmed me during my time travels, and it was weird to watch myself. I was really wasted, there's no denying it. I won't be doing it again anytime soon, mainly because I do not have any seeds left, but this one is certainly going to be on my list as I do it again with much caution and respect. I apparently took another at 10 seeds at 2 AM and asked my son to take the rest away. I was still tripping mildly at this point, and all the way up until 10 AM in the morning. In our country, these seeds are commonly referred to as malpite, or in English, mad seeds. A perfect name for them, I think. Last words. I'm thoroughly impressed, but my advice, grow your own and make sure you pollinate by hand if need be. Please be safe.